if I hold this the rest of the time we're talking, it's not going to be a big deal. But if I have to hold this the rest of the day, it's going to get heavier. If I got to hold this for 2 days straight, my arm's going to fall off. So the point is, like, the longer you hold on to things, the heavier it becomes. And the weight can become so much that you don't want to take on anything new. And that can be another justification to not embrace new change.
What are some of the other unique skills that you think have helped make you successful?
I do have a level of competitiveness that it's probably from my mom. Like, I remember when I was little, my mom and dad were playing tennis, and my dad was beating my mom, and my mom just went off. She's like, "No, we're not leaving until I get this W." So maybe it started when I was younger, but I am competitive, and not only that I want to go out there and give the best service that I can think of, or the best speech, or the best training, but I want to solve problems. So sometimes, like, I'll get feedback results where people will say things like, "Well, I didn't like how you delivered certain information," or "I didn't like the words you chose," or even I've had a couple where they say, "You offended me." And when I read that, I think, "Oh, we need to solve this, and it can be solved." So I'm going to reach out to you, and we're going to talk about it. And we're not going to talk about it where I'm going to debate you, or I'm going to argue that you're wrong. I want to learn. I want to truly understand and see if we can get to a place where we can get back on the same page and work together. That's what I mean by that competitive. Like, I don't believe there's a problem that does not have a solution. If there is not a solution, it just means that the people who are responsible for finding it decided to stop looking for it. And everything can change. I believe any person can change. I don't believe every person, unfortunately, that not everyone will. Not everyone will. But I believe everyone can. Any system can change. So um, Speak for MC is all about, let's find opportunities to improve things and solve things. And I will not give up. I am determined, and I'm not gonna stop. And there are some areas of our systems that need some help, and I am coming. I am coming, and we're gonna solve it. We're gonna solve it. I'm not gonna stop.
You're on the way.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, we're gonna solve it. We're gonna solve it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really great to hear that passion, to go for it.
Yeah. And then
And
the other thing, if there is anyone that does training or speaking, I think another characteristic that's really important is to don't get too high or don't get too low. Like when I go and let's say I have a really good training or a really good speech or whatever it is, I'll be proud of it for like a little bit, maybe that day or so, and then it's on to the next. And my mentality is, no matter how good yesterday's was, if today's is horrible, yesterday's doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? And then it goes the other way too. If it's bad, that how bad it was, as long as I learn from that, that's irrelevant to the one I got next week. Because if I crush that one next week, I'm right back on track. Right. So really be in the here and the now. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Every opportunity is an opportunity to succeed. Every opportunity is a new opportunity. So if you find yourself dwelling on a success, or you find yourself dwelling on a loss, you're doing yourself a disservice. Live in the moment, on to the next, and be better. Like the one quote, it says, "Be better before tomorrow comes." I think that's a really good strength to have.
Yeah, we in our when we deal with parents and our parent support groups, we highly encourage parenting in the present, not
Yeah.
focusing on those failures or mistakes in the past, because that's
Yep.
just going to hinder you in what you're doing moving forward.
Yep. It's funny you bring that up, because now that brings back memories that a lot of times, like when the population I worked with, they would go to a residential program. And obviously to get to that residential program, they had to do a lot of bad things, right? That's why they're there. So then they would go to the residential program and they would make progress. And they would come home And sometimes the parents, they couldn't get past those things they did before the residential, and they wouldn't see the progress they've made since then. And that would, I call it like the analogy of like holding the water. Like if you have a glass of water, like, hey, I got one right here. If I hold this the rest of the time we're talking, it's not going to be a big deal. But if I have to hold this the rest of the day, it's going to get heavier. If I got to hold this for 2 days straight, my arm's going to fall off. So the point is, like, the longer you hold on to things, the heavier it becomes. And the weight can become so much that you don't want to take on anything new. And that can be another justification to not embrace new change. So if you're holding on to something, and that's professional and personal life,
Mhm.
put it down, talk to someone objective, write down your thoughts, do something to put that water down, because the longer you hold it, the more it's going to be a barrier to, stop you from getting where you truly can go, and what your potential can be.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would love to pivot for a moment. And we talked about feedback earlier. I'd love to read some feedback that I found about your work, actually.
What are you researching me, Heather?
A little bit. I had to prepare. So the feedback that I found says Curtis is a phenomenal trainer. His exceptional training skills allow trainees to explore their own and others' perspectives. It's interactive, informative, creative, and inspiring. You'll learn incredible ways to become more empathetic and motivate change.
What? Did I write that for myself?
So you're
Was that
clearly
my
an
mom?
inspirational
Did my
speaker.
mom send you a review?
So you're clearly an inspirational speaker. So who or what is the source of your inspiration and passion?